Well, good morning. This is good news to live by, and thank you for joining the Richland Road Church of Christ. It's a great day that God has blessed us with, and God has given us another sunny day as we began a this Thursday on Good News to Live By. We have been blessed with a great study that we are in on finding joy in your adversity. And we all have adversity at one time or another. But before we get into that, a couple announcements we want to make known to you. We do want to remind you that this Sunday we will be having one service at 10 o'clock, and that will be at the in our shelter house. We'll be putting up a couple additional tents. It's going to be a little warm this weekend. We do encourage you to come at 10 o'clock. We also invite you to come and stay. Bring your own picnic lunch for your family and stay for that as well. And bring your lawn chairs if you can. We do have some seating at the picnic tables. But if you want to bring your lawn chairs, that would be great. It would just be a great, wonderful weekend to be able to have you and see you. Bring a friend. The COVID-19 is not as elusive in the outside, and so we look forward to the time of fellowshipping. Would remind you on Sunday night at 6 o'clock. Mike Holloman's study on Genesis. Mike does a fabulous job. You can find his information on Zoom. It's on Zoom, but you come to our Facebook page, and there you'll find out how to go to that study. I really encourage you that you would want to participate in that particular study. We ask that you would remember in your prayers the family of Erica Rich. Erica passed away yesterday, a very diligent servant of Christ, has done so much for this church throughout the years, was born in Germany. Her funeral will be on Monday. Calling hours are from 11 to 1 at the Richland Road Church of Christ building. And then there will be a funeral service at 1 o'clock on Monday. This will be July the 6th. The burial will take place the following day in Noble County. So that is for Erica Rich, fought a diligent battle of cancer. Also, if you would remember in your prayers, Mike Pine. Mike Pine's granddaughter, Alicia Pine, was killed in an automobile accident, 19 years old, on Route 30 on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Tuesday. Please remind Tuesday, excuse me. And so please remember Mike Pine, his son Joe, and all of their family at the passing of Alicia Pine. Such a tragic, tragic story and event. So please remember them. Continue to remember, if you would, also Fred Rule in your prayers and many others that have been in the hospital but are recovering, such as Melissa Hines and Carrie Rossiter. We are grateful for what God has given us every day, and we should always look in a positive way about life. As we talk about adversity, finding joy in adversity, we looked at Paul, how Paul had been in prison, and as he had been in prison, he had been there for a long period of time. He's waiting to approach him before Nero. And we've been talking about how do you find joy in adversity, and we talked about some secrets that, like when you have unpleasant circumstances, what you got to do is you got to recognize that there's something better than that, the change. We looked at yesterday that the possibility of unreasonable people, that there are unreasonable people in our life, and that we need to focus on what really matters rather than dwelling on the distractions of people. Today, we're going to look at the third and the final of this of uncertain future. And today, what we're going to look at as we talk about dealing with adversity, sometimes we don't know what the future has, but we've got to need to understand there is a purpose greater than you. There is a purpose greater than you. Paul is old, he's tired, he's been in prison now for 4 years. He is ready to go on to heaven. They've taken every single thing away from him, his friends, his ministry, his freedom, his privacy. Well, they've taken everything but one thing they cannot take away, and that is his purpose for living. cannot take that away from a person. So Paul is writing these words, and as a Roman guard is chained to him, probably looks over his shoulder, kind of like in a plane, how some people kind of look over people's shoulder. Well, and they shouldn't be. Well, he's looking over his shoulder, looking to see what Paul is writing about and what he's going to say. He probably doesn't have anything else to do. He can't sleep, because if he falls asleep, that wouldn't be good. So this guard knows that Paul could be executed in a very short amount of time. So what does a person do who's on death row? I mean, especially if they become bitter and they're angry and they feel unjustly treated, or maybe they're scared or afraid how much time that they have left. So the Roman guard leans over here and hear the words of Philippians 1, verse 20 to 22. I eagerly expect and hope that I will in no way be ashamed, but will have sufficient courage, so that now, as always, Christ will be exalted in my body, whether life or death. That is his purpose, to exalt Christ. And here is verse 21. For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. If I live to give glory to Christ. And if I die, I get to be with Christ. I'm not sure which one. Now he tries to reason within himself, which in his mind, which one he ought to do. Verse 22 to 24, he says, if I'm going to go on living in the body, this will mean fruitful labor for me. I'll be able to make a difference here. Yet, what shall I choose? I do not know. I'm torn between the two. I desire to depart and be with Christ, which is better by far. But it is more necessary for you that I remain in the body. So it's just going to back and forth, and here, trying to be clear, the purpose of Paul's life wasn't Paul. The purpose of Paul's life was Christ. He was just consumed with knowing Christ and making Christ known. I was thinking this week that it would have been easy for him probably to question God. If Paul hadn't been arrested 5 years earlier and unjustly held, just to think of all the good that he would have been able to do. Think about all the churches he would have been able to start. Think of all the coliseums he would have been able to preach in. Think about all the ways he could have used his gift. Basically, for 5 years, he's been laying in prison. What he didn't know was while he's in prison, that he would write a chunk of the New Testament, which would be read by hundreds of millions of people, and it would forever influence the life of our lives, even to this day. He didn't know that. And you don't know that what you're chained to today is going to be used by God later on to accomplish his purpose. So you should be faithful to him, and you should say, God, for me to live is Christ. For me to live is Christ. If you're going to write that verse out and you were to truthfully describe your feelings, what would you say? How would you fill in the blank? For me to live is what? Blank. For me to live is possessions, to get all you can get, can all you get, and sit on the can until it spoils. To get. We buy things we don't need with money that we don't have to impress people we don't even like. That is dumb. I got to work to keep up with the Joneses, and just about the time I catch up with the Joneses, they refinance, and I'm in trouble again. For me to live is possession. Maybe for me to live is pleasure. If it feels good, do it. Anything to make me pleasurable. Anything to relieve my boredom for one moment. But Monday morning we'll come back and gonna have to go back to work. Life is still the piss. Pleasure doesn't last. For me to live is power, position, prestige, popularity. Image is everything. Many teenagers is popularity. They'll do anything they can to fit in the peer groups, even if that means to lower their standards. You can be the most popular person at your school, come back 2 years later, and no one will remember you. One minute you're the hero, the next minute you're the zero. The problem with possessions, pleasures, and power is they don't last. He says in verse 27, he just kind of closes this section with application. He wants them to have the same perspective in life. Listen what he says. Philippians 1:27. Whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Then, whether I come and see you or only hear about you in my absence, I will know that you stand firm in one spirit, contending as one man for the faith of the gospel. Paul says, whatever happens. One of the things I don't love about Paul's writings is he tends to make application statements that are all inclusive. It leaves me very little room of loopholes. He says, whatever happens, which pretty much includes everything that happens. Conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the Christ. Yeah, but God, what if someone pulls in front of me even then? Yeah, but what if the coach doesn't play my child? Or what if my spouse annoys me? Or my child frustrates me? What if my boss overlooks my hard work? What about that, God? Paul says, whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel. What if the umpire makes a bad call, calls my child out? What if the team loses? What if the boss calls me in the office and tells me that we're downsizing? What about that? Whatever happens. What if I lose my job? Whatever happens. Why does God leave you on earth after you became a Christian? Why didn't He just take us up to heaven? Once you are His child, why does He leave you here? He leaves you here for the benefit of others, to tell those who don't know the Lord the good news and encourage each other. I like the story of three prospectors who found a very rich vein of gold in California during the gold rush days, and they realized there was a great discovery. They had decided that we've got a really good thing here, and as long as no one else finds about it, it's going to be really good. So each one made a vow that would not tell the secret. They went to town. They filed their claim. They got the equipment they needed to mine the gold. True to the vow, they didn't say a word to anybody. They filed the claim. They bought the equipment. But when they got ready to leave, a whole crowd of people surrounded them and were following them. And the reason was because the expressions on their face had given them away. Their faces were a glow of anticipation of something very special, so a crowd followed them out of town to find out what was going on. When people see us experiencing God's amazing joy, even in difficult circumstances, they're going to want to follow us. I'm convinced that the reason there is so much unhappiness in our culture, so many discouraged and depressed people, is because our society is totally preoccupied with me, with ourself. What's best for me? What will make me happy? What is the best thing for me? When you learn to have a greater purpose in your life than yourself, you will have joy that you cannot handle. There's no such thing as a problem-free living. When you base your life on the kinds of values that's going to last, then problems just aren't that significant. So if the things haven't worked out for you as you planned, listen to me. God has a purpose that is bigger than my problems. And that is how you have joy in adversity. Thank you for joining us today. I hope that you will have a wonderful day, and we'll look forward to talking tomorrow. Take care, and God bless.